To help you introduce you to the SMART sales system, I want to answer 3 questions. The first one being I want to explain basically what SMART stands for in terms of our terminology. As you can't, if you can't already tell, we use the word system a lot with this, and I'll explain in what exact way this is a system. And I'll just put it out there what you can expect, what the return on investment will be for you to spend your time with us during this 15-week period or adopting the SMART sales system. So what basically does SMART stand for? Well, the S and the M in SMART stands for sales messaging. And this is basically, when I say sales messaging, I refer to what you say and communicate when you're talking with prospects. And that can either be over the phone, in email, voicemail, in meetings and presentations and whatnot. So everything you say. And a lot of that could either be what you're talking about regarding your product. It could be what you say to try to build interest or qualify the prospect and whatnot. Now, I feel fairly confident that we focus more on sales messaging than any other sales training program I've been exposed to or book that I've read. And I believe that what you say, the words you say, is your most powerful sales tool. There's a lot of different sales tools you can use, such as email, phone, computer, social media, email automation tools, LinkedIn, and whatnot. But those are all great tools and will improve your effectiveness and efficiency. But if you aren't saying the right things, then those won't help you much. For example, if you use an email automation tool that helps you to broadcast your message, but your email messages aren't good, then your results will be minimal. On the other hand, if you have a very strong message but you don't use great tools, you likely can perform very well. And if you combine the two of good message with great tools, then you can perform at an optimum level. So we really focus a lot on that. And like I said, I think we do this more than any other sales training program out there. The R in SMART stands for response, and this refers to how you respond to the prospect. So it's one thing to start out of the gate thinking this is what I'm going to say, this is what I'm going to talk about, but you never really know how the prospect is going to respond. So the other half of the sales message is being prepared for how to respond to your prospects, let's say, objections. So you're sure to face objections. We just talked about the coronavirus. That's just one objection you can face. I'm not available right now. I'm not interested. Just send me your information. So how are you responding to those? Are you just improvising, or are you prepared with a response that has a decent chance of keeping the conversation going? So we focus tremendously on your responses and how you respond. And by the way, it's not just responding to objections, it's also helping you to be more prepared with how you're responding to prospect questions. So there's a lot of frequently asked questions, and with those you could also just improvise, but there's also logic you can use for responding to questions in the right way. And the entire system is really filled with tactics. I believe there's a lot of sales training programs out there that talk about things at a high level, and they don't really tell you what to do. We will tell you exactly what to do, and one of the ways we do that is through this system. And so getting back to some of those other programs, there's often times where I sat through a sales training program and it was very inspiring and motivating, but when it was time to get back to my desk and time to pick up the phone, I wasn't in a better place to know what to do in terms of what to say when I called up a cold prospect. And that's because a lot of sales training materials are just fluffy and at a high level. They talk about very rough concepts and don't really talk about when you're in this situation, this is what you need to say and do. And the SMART sales system is totally different. We will tell you exactly what to say in this situation. And when you're in this situation, you should do this or don't say this. Not to say that you'll agree with everything that we recommend or that everything we recommend is perfect, but you do not need to worry about learning about the SMART sales system and then picking up the phone and not knowing what to say, or being in a presentation or facing an objection and not knowing what to do. On the other extreme, on one extreme you have very fluffy, high-level training materials that don't tell you what to do. On the other extreme, I've seen some sales training materials that are just too complex. They tell you exactly what to do, but it's too difficult and complicated to figure out how to adopt, or you need to have a certain personality in order to do what they're recommending, or a certain level of experience. An example of this is I read a book once that I thought was pretty decent, and it had like a 9-square matrix that it recommended that you go through when having appointments with clients. I thought the matrix was a pretty good idea. I liked what it would actually help you to extract from your prospects, but really figuring out how to introduce the matrix in an appointment and explain what it is and explain what you're going to do, and then figuring out what to say to go through the matrix. While it wasn't impossible, it wasn't something that I thought of, so thinking of how to go through it was just foreign and difficult to implement. So it was too complicated, and while I thought it was a good tactic, it was something I never ended up implementing. And if you go through sales training programs and you learn stuff that you don't implement, not only are you wasting your time, but you're wasting any money that you spend on that type of stuff. Well, the good thing with the Smart Sales System is that everything we tell you to do or tell you not to do is fairly practical and easy to implement if you choose to do it. It's not real complicated. You can implement the Smart Sales System regardless of your level of sales experience, sales skills, educational background, or your personality. You don't have to be a talkative person, or you don't have to be extremely charismatic. You just can follow our simple set of instructions. Another way that we can proudly say that this is a system that you can implement is that it offers a software platform that you can use in conjunction with implementing everything you learn from the book and the training. That platform you may have heard of is SalesScript. You probably have seen that name or heard us talk about that before. But the software completely aligns with everything we're going to talk about in these training modules and everything we talk about in the book. It's optional. You don't have to purchase it, but it does help it to be what you learn here to be more of a system, because what you're learning, the software helps you to implement on a daily basis. And this does a few things. One is it makes it easy for you to implement everything we talk about. For example, we're going to talk about building your message and creating scripts. You can certainly do everything we recommend in a Microsoft Word document and create everything we talk about. But if you use the software, the documents are already created in the software, so you don't have to create all those. So it makes it easy for you to implement the Smart Sales System. But one thing that it does that is even more powerful is that when you typically go through a sales training workshop, you'll typically get hit with a fire hose. And you'll get hit with a fire hose of a lot of information. Typically, when you go through any kind of training, you retain a certain percentage of the information that you were exposed to, and some of it you don't retain. And in order to continue to retain the small percentage that you walk away with, you have to reinforce it on a daily basis. You have to use the terminology, you have to use the recommendations. And if you don't reinforce what you learned, you end up forgetting the portion that you actually did walk away remembering from the sales training program. So the good thing about the SalesScript software is that it aligns with all of the training. So it is something that if you used it correctly, you would use it on a daily basis when you're prospecting. And the tool, since it uses all the same recommendations and the same tips and the same terminology, it will reinforce everything you're learning, making it much easier for you to adopt and implement all the recommendations that you learn. So what can you expect from implementing the Smart Sales System? So basically, our expectation is that this system will help you to become a smarter salesperson. And one of the ways that we'll do that is we're going to help you to improve your ability to know what to say in all of the common sales prospecting situations. So you'll go from improvising or being uncertain what to do and say to having confidence and clarity that you should not say this and instead say this. So we'll make that crystal clear. Because you'll be smarter and communicating better, you will make a better impression with the prospects that you end up interacting with. Because you're making a better impression, you should likely improve your ability to establish conversations, and also because we'll improve your ability to know what to say when you face objections. That will also help you to establish more conversations. Once you get into conversations and appointments and discussions with prospects, you should have better interactions overall, because you're going to be asking better questions, you're going to be communicating better, you're going to be making a better impression. Because you're doing all of that, you should end up building more rapport and better relationships with prospects. You should ultimately be able to make smarter decisions. So one of the reasons, a quick example of why that might be the case is because we're going to help you to identify what questions to ask. That's going to help you to extract more information from prospects. Because you have more information, you're going to be able to make better decisions throughout the sales process and managing the sales cycles and sales process. Because of all of that, you should be able to generate more leads. And believe it or not, selling should become easier for you. One quick example why is if you become more prepared for the objections that you're going to continually face and you improve your ability to get around those, that immediately is going to make selling easier. Because instead of getting beat up and shot down, you're going to be establishing conversations. And at the end of the day, we all can sometimes feel a little anxiety when it's time to prospect, especially when it's time to pick up the phone and call cold prospects. Well, if you don't know what to say and do, and you don't know how to respond properly to objections, you can easily feel a little bit of anxiety in that situation. But if you change those scenarios to where you have confidence from knowing what to say and what to do, you can decrease the anxiety that you feel when you're selling. Now, the system is built on 3 levels, and just to go through those real quick, level 1 is basically your sales message. This is not your script. This is not your emails. This is your sales message. So every salesperson has a sales message, whether they realize it or not, whether they create one or not. There's something that they are going out there and saying. Could be just them talking about their product. What we want to do is we want to build you a good sales message that focuses not only on your product, but also on the benefits you deliver, pain points, and whatnot. We'll take you through a process to create your sales message, and that will be the foundation and level 1. On top of that, we will end up building your sales scripts. So this is where we come into creating cold call scripts and cold emails, and we basically use your sales message to create all of those documents. Once you have all that, you can move up to level 3, which is the actual methodology and processes and tips and tactics that you use when you're using your sales tools. For example, at level 2, we create your cold call script. Level 3 is where we teach you about how to cold call and what you should be doing when you're cold calling. A better example is part of level 2 are objection responses. Well, if you have objection responses for this is how to respond, but you don't really understand why you're saying that or how to say it or what to do with that objection response, they aren't going to do you much good. So what you need to do after you have your objection responses is then move to level 3 and learn our approach or a approach for how to handle objections and combine that with your objection responses. So what we'll do is we'll take you through these 3 levels. You don't have to memorize all of this and memorize what is what and what each level is. I show you this for 2 reasons. One is this is how the sales training 15-week program is organized and also how the book is organized. The first section is on your sales message. The second section is on sales tools. The third section is basically on how to sell better, right? By the way, level 3 is the bulk of the book and the bulk of the sales training program here that you're going to attend. The other thing is that I just want to point out that you can do all of this without purchasing the sales script or software application. You can create your sales message in a document. You can create the sales tools at level 2 in a document. The good thing is that Sales Scripter actually does align with all 3 of these levels. It aligns very closely with level 1, level 2, because there's actually an area in Sales Scripter called the Sales Message Builder that takes you through all the steps you need to go through for level 1. And then there's an area of Sales Scripter called the Sales Playbook, which is the level 2 documents already loaded up that get populated with your sales message. So just want to point that out. Another reason why I show these levels to you is so that you can maybe get a little more clarity around what you need to work on and what you need to do. For example, a lot of clients often come to us to help them create their cold call script. But if they come to us with that, they're coming to us and asking for help with level 2. Almost 100% of the time, we take a step back and start at level 1 to create that foundation. So before we create your script, we want to create your sales message. And then we use your message to create cold call scripts. Another example is sometimes clients come to us and want help with objection handling. So they're coming to us to work on level 3, but they haven't done the work for level 2 and level 1. In those scenarios, we go back to and start at level 1 to create their message, then level 2 to create their objection responses, and then level 3 to work on how their work on their approach to respond